Good morning. But there was silence. I'm going to have to train you, aren't I? Now, what I want you to do is to just sit back in your chair. Can you do that for me? Just sit back and relax. Yes, this is audience participation time. Now, I want you to just close your eyes and relax and think about some things. Who can remember the delicious anticipation of going to the chemist to pick up your developed photos? You've been overseas, you may be seeing the Eiffel Tower for the first time, and you are absolutely worried that you took a photo and your thumb was going to be across the tower. Can anyone remember that? And you used to take them in a plastic bag, and you used to have to save to be able to pay to get your photos back, and they always smelt a bit funny, eh? Who can remember being forced to watch endless slideshows? Did anyone have to do that? Like of other people's holidays? And it was always kind of brown, and everyone was wearing stubbies. I think we all need a bit of counselling after that. And here's my favourite memory. Can anyone remember a Saturday afternoon taping songs off the radio? Can anyone remember doing that? And your favourite song would come on and you'd try and do it, and the bloody announcer would talk over the start of the song. Can you remember do that? And you had to start again. Can you remember doing that? I know, I think I wasted a lot of my youth doing that. But if we step back, what have all these experiences got in common? They're completely obsolete. Our children do not do these things, right? Our children's definitely will not do it. They're obsolete activities, they're obsolete experiences. Think slideshows, think photo albums, think CDs, DVDs, cassette tapes, dot matrix printers. Can anyone remember them? It's still ingrained. Typewriters, home milk delivery. As we mentioned before, thank God dial-up modems have gone, just like the spiral perm. Who had one of those? So much change has happened during our lifetimes. Over that past decade, we have lived through immense change. But it doesn't often feel like it, right? Because we've grabbed these changes. I don't know about you, but I don't want to go back to the chemist to pick up my photos. We have these immense abilities in our ability to communicate with each other, the quality and accessibility of music, of film, of the world, to get our clothes washed and our lives organised. But for some of us, say those who wanted to run a music store, who were determined to be a travel agent, who were working in the chemist developing the photos, this change that we are so excited about and embracing has been quite catastrophic for them. So my first point for you today is that we have lived change. We've already embraced change. Change is all around us. Change is constant. Change has improved nearly every aspect of our lives so far. But some change has also had some negative impacts. And now here we are sitting in what some people call the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And this revolution is a bit different to the others. In previous revolutions, arguably, there was only kind of one or two moving pieces, steam or electricity, and one main advance driving the change. Today, it's the advances in the underlying tools that are driving technology. It's advances in computing power, exponential increases in computing power. And computing power, when you think about it, underpins every facet of our lives. So change is happening across every realm of our lives. Nanotechnology, 3D printing, AI, machine learning, biotech, robotics, genetics. It will drive change, as I said, in every facet of our lives. And it's going to be exponential. Everyone knows what an exponential curve is. We can do the exponential curve dance. Can't see it, can't see it, can't see it, can't see it. Oh, shit. That is an exponential curve. The convergence of technologies too. Remember, we've got moving on every single platform. We've got convergence. We don't quite know how they're all going to play out. So exponential and convergence is a really volatile and exciting place to be in. We don't know where tech change is going. We don't quite know how it's going to play out, but we will know that when it does, it's going to play out fast. So what does this all mean? Are you sitting there thinking about all this technology and going, well, what does this all mean for me? You know, the average Kiwi battler, the average small business owner, the average good guy and girl who just wants a really good life. And it's an awful lot to process when you're actually trying to think about if you've got a frozen pizza for the kids' dinner tonight before they go to sports practice. The reality of our lives are that this is a lot to process. The predictions and the research are very mixed about what it means for New Zealand. There's a wide range of views and predictions about what this also means for our working lives. But no one is predicting the status quo. No one is predicting the future will look like a shinier version of now with just a few more apps. I'll get into some numbers. I think this is the best that I found. It was a study by NZIER. They looked at the current technology for automation in New Zealand and applied it to the labour market and our current job structures. They found that today, 9% of jobs in New Zealand could easily be automated if the company chose to do it. They thought about 35% of jobs, if they extrapolated where technology was going and automation was going, about 35% of jobs in the next 3 to 5 years, if the progression works as it is, could be automated. Now that's quite a lot of Kiwi battlers. It's 370,000 to be exact. And yes, some will be labourers, some will be machine operators, some will be clerical workers, some will be admin roles. But actually, the high-value jobs are probably where the automation gains are to be, in the management structures, in our professions, and for our small businesses as well. So the change actually could be quite democratic. And even if you think about our current jobs, most of them, we have some repetitive tasks in them. So yes, that could make our jobs much more exciting when parts of our jobs, when we're working, could be automated as well. So it means no more repetitive tasks, but it also could mean in total businesses need less than us. The New Zealand Institute of Directors in its last year's survey asked directors of New Zealand companies about this whole concept about tech disruption. Nearly 60% said they expected their industry and, of course, their organisation to be disrupted in the next 3 to 5 years. That same percentage said they were sure their industry and their organisation was not ready for it. So what does it actually mean? Again, are we all a bit frightened? I don't think we should be. I think we should be looking and we should be alert. But what we have to do is change our mindset, and I think we've had some amazing speakers talk about that already. It means we have to give up this whole concept of a job for life, and many of us have, but many of us are still working on what I call the 3-stage model. We're going to do our education, we're going to work, and then we're going to retire. That doesn't work for most of us now. We move in and out of work, we move in and out of education, and retirement may look very different to what it did from our grandparents. We may retrain, have periods of self-employment, have periods of gig work, have periods outside the workforce. And for some people like me, portfolio working is an incredibly rewarding way to operate. But it also means we could be creating some very precarious income, poor conditions, and second class, even further second class in our labour market. The volume of New Zealanders who have self-employed has increased by 30% in the last 10 years, and Australian data showed last year 1/3 of their workforce freelanced. That's amazing change. I think we also have to look at the whole concept of leadership too and how that will change, and the whole ideas around management hierarchies. We can do our supervision, which is different to leadership, our supervision and our managerial tasks through tech platforms. Think about bus drivers. 10 years ago, we had an army of supervisors who used to hop on and off the buses to check if they were running on time and if the bus driver was being nice to people. In Wellington, the whole bus network is monitored now by one person tracking the buses on GPS, and Twitter provides a pretty good feedback about whether the bus driver was nice or not. So in this world, those kind of concepts of the monitoring and supervision can be done through tech, so we don't need people to do that. But what I do think we need is leaders, people who can bring us together, who can create environments where we want to work, who can engage us and engage our customers. I also think the whole concept of formal learning is going to have to be challenged. When you think about it, taking 3 years out to learn about something, when that thing has already changed even before you've started, becomes even less a good investment. So I think we'll get more informal and bite-sized learning, and we see our education system slowly trying to catch up with that. The whole focus on technical knowledge becomes less important. If you're positioning yourself as the expert, can somebody Google what you know faster than what you can tell them? And how are you actually adding value to your organisation then? This means some of us might get left behind without the skills needed. Yes, we're going to see a whole lot of new jobs created, but they're going to need different skill sets. And so what does that mean for us? What does that mean for our communities, our societies? I think New Zealand's got some tough conversations to have over the next few years. I don't think we're really having them yet. Robots don't make people redundant. There isn't a 747 full of robots about to land to take us over. We make the decisions. We are the leaders. We can create the environment and society we want to. I think we're really good at creating great beauty, but as a race, we are also quite capable of creating immense misery. I think we have got some amazing choices standing in front of us over the next few years. So New Zealand, that includes your customers, your staff, your colleagues, you, your family, your friends and neighbours, are all facing the potential for unprecedented personal and social change. So we need to get ready for it. So I'm going to give you some ideas how. Part of the project that I undertook was to actually ask 12 amazing New Zealanders who are at the cutting edge of that technology now. So they're a cutting edge of startup, of entrepreneurialism, of community activism, and ask them not what they thought the future of technology was going to be, but ask them, given where you sit and given what you can see that is happening, how are you personally preparing to be relevant and thriving in the next decade? And I'm going to share what they said because they did share with much generosity. The first thing they told us is that they took an awful lot of time of understanding themselves, the immensely human part of themselves. They understood where they came from, what their values were, and what kind of life they wanted for themselves and their families. It was a very personal process, but they were very well grounded. They did that because if they knew there was going to be change, it knew that they were positioning themselves that they could take up opportunities. And you can only take up opportunities if you have a really good sense of what matters to you. They were also all incredibly curious about what was happening around them. They wanted to know what was happening in their industry. They wanted to know what was happening in industries related to them. They wanted to talk to an immensely wide variety of people. They sought out people they knew they would disagree with because they knew that change is happening out there and they wanted to see what was happening rather than just talking to the same people and reinforcing their own beliefs. They asked questions continuously. They saw that the future is already here somewhere. They just have to trip over it, so they actively went to do that. Based on all this, they'd created plans for themselves. Now, many of you might know Frances Valentine. She was one of the contributors to the book. She has a 10-year plan broken down by months that made me very tired. And at year 5, she's going to disrupt herself. There's an incredibly powerful way of planning that I just needed a cup of tea and a lie down. Actually, I needed 2 gins and a lie down, to be honest. But many of you will also know Michelle Dickinson, Nano Girl. She's an agile way of planning. She's a nano scientist, and she knows the technology is moving so fast that there's no point in having a 10-year plan. So she thinks about herself as holding a rock, and that rock is her next step. And she looks around to go, where should I put the rock next? And so she'll put it somewhere and move towards it. Then she'll pick up the rock again and go, where do I go next? And that kind of metaphor is I'm walking towards my rock, I'm standing on the rock, I'm picking it up and doing it again, works for her. And she kind of does that every 6 months to keep her planning. But all of the people who we talked to had a plan, some sort of way forward, which means they were actively seeking their futures, not waiting for it to come to them. And the fourth thing all of the people we talked to did, which sounds the most simplest but I think the yet hardest, is they looked after themselves. They invested in their own well-being. They knew change was hard and you need to be at your physical and mental best if you're going to be able to seize the opportunities that are going to come for you. So they put exercise in their diary and treated it the same as a client meeting. They learnt new skills for fun so they could just keep on learning. They set rituals that gave themselves energy. They took breaks. They turned their phone off, and they prioritised sleeping. It's quite interesting how something so simple can be so powerful. No successful person of these successful people was waiting for change to happen to them. They were actively understanding their environment. They were planning and being proactive. They had taken full responsibility for their future. They did so under a clear understanding of their own values, and they were really open and looking to disrupt themselves. They didn't want someone else to do it to them. They wanted to be in the driving seat. In the last few months since the book's been launched, I've been lucky enough to talk to many Kiwis about the future of work. And underpinning all these conversations was one thing. It was fear. We are afraid. We're afraid of something. We're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of change. We're afraid of not being in control. But if we contrast to the approach of those that are successful and are likely to be immensely successful in the next decade, you can't stop fear from making us curious, from understanding, from planning, and getting on the front foot. So it's going to take personal courage from all of us to fight that fear. We're going to have to eyeball change, and we're going to need leaders like you to do that. So I challenge yourself, put yourself in the driving seat of your future of your business, the future of your region. You can drive the disruption. Ask yourself now, are you still waiting at the chemist to pick up your photos? Thank you.